size, disguise, I'll hide. Bright lights, decide, defy. Your heart beats fast, despite the truth that love is blind. I just wanna feel anything.
Welcome to the Clean and Filthy podcast with your host, Matthew M.
Hello and welcome to the Clean and Filthy podcast, where we are clean and serene with the filthy mind in between. My name is Matthew M. I am your host, and I am an addict in recovery. Welcome, everybody, to another week, another episode. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super just grateful. We got so much to cover today. Hopefully everybody's ready. Let's strap in. It's going to be a fun episode. We literally have so much to cover. We were off last week unintentionally. I apologize for that first and foremost. Hopefully everybody saw my social media. Hopefully everybody saw that things were just covered today. A little crazy. Hopefully everybody's ready. Things were just a good convention. I'll just say that. My voice was completely missing. I really do hope that everybody did see the post on social media, because my voice was sounded very 1-900 operator level. It was kind of a vibe. So it's weird how for 33 straight weeks we had no issue at all. And every single episode was right on time, right when it was supposed to be, with no issues, problems, whatever. And then since episode 33, we've had 2 episodes that got delayed. So I apologize for that. But we are here and we have so much to cover. I'm just calling it now for our next convention. We're just going to take the week off the following week. So the Tuesday following Memorial Day 2022, it's going to be a scheduled absence, because I know my voice isn't going to be there. And so we're just going to put that out there now. But we got so much to cover today. I'm super excited to be here. We're going to be talking about the second part of More Will Be Revealed out of the literature. We're going to be doing a 2-week-long weekly wrap-up. We're going to be answering more questions and giving 2 weeks of clean time shout-outs. So strap in, y'all. We got a great episode today, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Before we go any further, we got to give a huge thank you to our theme music, the incredible song Anything by Valentino Khan, Alice in Wonderland, and Mad Decent Records. Huge shout out to them for allowing us to use that as the theme music on the Clean and Filthy podcast. All of the streaming information listed down below, so check it out, listen to it, love it, download it, retweet it, put it in the back of your TikToks. I just love when I see people who didn't know who Valentino Khan or Alice in Wonderland were now all of a sudden actually having their listening to the music. It's on the Clean. It's a really funny podcast. It's a really fun vibe for me. I don't know. It's just a fun vibe. So before we go any further, got to give a huge thank you to our VIP supporters. These are the people on Patreon who are helping support this product with donations. So if you're interested in helping grow this product, helping develop this product more and more, please check out our Patreon page. Easiest way to get there, head over to the website, www.cleanandfilthypodcast.com. When you're there, in the top right corner, we have all of our social media information. So make sure that you're liked us, followed us, subscribed to us on all of our social media channels, and then head over to the Patreon page where you can set up to become one of our patrons. And that would be super duper cool. And not only will you get a shout out like these people are about to, but you will get one of these amazing Clean and Filthy podcast stickers to put on anything you possibly like. They are quite popular on water bottles and laptops. So you could have one as well. And if you want to be shout out like these people, head on over there. And these are our VIP supporters of the Clean and Filthy podcast: Alex B, Sage A, Cindy, Stephanie, Shar, Liana, Clint, and Alex T. Huge thank you. Shout out to all of you for your continued support. I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here right now with us on the Clean and Filthy podcast. Welcome. If it's your first time, I hope you hear something you like and stick around. We are a weekly, supposed to be, podcast broadcasting live every single Tuesday at 5 p.m. Arizona time, live on YouTube with episodes available for download wherever you consume your podcasts from. We focus on 12-step recovery from the disease of addiction. We talk about the things that us addicts in recovery go through on a daily basis, each and every day. We talk about how we grow, how we deal with life's challenges, how we become better human beings each and every day, leaving the world a better place each and every day. That's what we're here doing. But don't worry, if you are not an addict in recovery, stick around. Maybe you'll hear something you like, and if you do, please share it. So I got to give a what up to everybody who's on the chat right now. I know my sponsee Roadie's up on there. What's up, fam? Good to see you, man. I always love going back and rereading the chat afterwards. So shout out to anybody who's watching the YouTube broadcast right now. Get that chat popping. Let's go. And of course, if you are on YouTube right now and you want to help this podcast grow, please make sure to download it from any and all possible podcast directories. It is greatly appreciated. If you are currently listening on a podcast directory, one of those podcast directories, thank you so much for the download. I really do appreciate it. I know that you could be downloading any podcast, but you stumbled upon or directly chose the Clean and Filthy podcast. And for that, I am immensely grateful. I really do hope you hear something you like and you keep coming back and you continue to grow and partake in this journey. Whether you are an addict in recovery, whether you are not an addict in recovery, whatever it is, I'm so glad that you are here. And if you do want to participate in the live stream, make sure to head over to youtube.com. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Clean and Filthy podcast page so you get a notification whenever we go live, which just so happens to be almost every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Arizona time. So thank you all for being here. Hopefully you hear something you like. If you do, hopefully you can share it with somebody and then maybe they'll hear something they like. Like I said, we have a packed episode today and I want to get right into it, but we have to take a quick second to discuss who I am, what we do, and what we don't do. So again, my name is Matthew M. I am an addict in recovery, and this is the Clean and Filthy podcast. As I said, we are here every single week discussing the 12-step recovery model from the disease of addiction. We are here talking about the ins and outs of recovery, what we do in the 12-step fellowship, and how we recover just for today from the disease of addiction. But I want to make sure to stay in line with the traditions. So we will not be discussing some specific things. I will not be directly endorsing or speaking from a point of authority for any one specific 12-step fellowship. Nor will I be speaking about what treatment center I went to or what recovery residence I recommend or anything of that nature, because I really do want to stay in line with the traditions. But if you have any questions about things that we do not directly cover on the air, please reach out to me directly. You can hit me up at matthew@cleanandfilthypodcast.com or on any social media. I'm on all of them, and I check them all very often. So if you have any questions for things that do not get directly discussed here on air, make sure to head on over to any social media that we do not and let us cover on. I would be happy to answer those questions. So that's what we don't do, right? But I want to make sure to emphasize that the point of this podcast is to answer questions, to give information, to help somebody who might be struggling with the disease of addiction, or maybe has a family member or a friend who's struggling with the disease of addiction and doesn't know things. This is a perfect opportunity to have questions answered, to ask those questions to this podcast and have them answered, and to cultivate an exciting community regarding recovery. Because recovery from the disease of addiction based on the 12-step recovery model has been one of the absolute greatest elements of my life I could ever fathom. And I want to share that. I want to share my love and excitement and joy regarding 12-step recovery with the public, and hopefully help somebody. Hopefully help lots of somebody. So if you are here right now, thank you for being here. Please stick around. Hopefully you hear something you like. And if you do, like I said, share it. So doesn't matter who you are, if you are an addict in recovery or not, if you are here right now, stick around. You're supposed to be here for a reason. Maybe you'll hear something you like. Because as I always say, the beautiful thing about recovery is that it's not just about removal of drugs. We all, whether you use a substance or not, suffer from some type of affliction to some type of a thing. Most people, maybe not you directly, but most people do. So stick around. Maybe you hear something you like. And now we're going to get into our first segment of the week.
Let's head to the lab for some R&D. Recovery and development.
That's right, y'all. We are in the lab for some R&D, recovery, and development. This is the part of the show where we discuss a different step or tradition or concept or spiritual principle from the 12-step recovery model. Or, as we're doing currently, we're working through some literature. And this is where we discuss the spiritual principles within. We discuss my personal experience, strength, and hope on that step or tradition or spiritual principle or part of the literature. We discuss the things within it that really vibe with me personally. So this is definitely the biggest part of our recovery journey on the Clean and Filthy podcast. So, you know, you might not be an addict in recovery, but please stick around. I really do hope that maybe you'll hear something that vibes with you. And if you do, like I said, share. So last week, episode 34, we discussed the first part of chapter 10 out of the literature entitled More Will Be Revealed. And if this is your first time on the Clean and Filthy podcast, to give you a little background, for the first 12 episodes of this show, we discussed steps 1 through 12 of the 12-step recovery model. And then episodes 13 through 24, we discussed traditions 1 through 12 of the 12-step recovery model. And now we have been working through the first piece of literature. And I can't say exactly which piece of literature it is because I do want to stay in line with the traditions. But I will say that it is the most basic piece of literature that we have. And that is where we have been working out of. So we've been going chapter by chapter, discussing different elements, talking about different things, how they vibe with me personally. And with this week, we have officially completed every single chapter out of this piece of literature. So again, if you have not listened to episode 34, I highly recommend checking it out because this is part 2. That was part 1. So you might want to pause. You might want to go back and check it out and then come back and vibe with us for episode 35 because we are talking about part 2 of the chapter More Will Be Revealed. I love this chapter so much. This part's probably going to go a little bit long because there's so much in this chapter that just I feel to my fucking soul. That part. Truly, I feel it like, we'll get there. So in part 1, just a little refresher because, hey, it's been 2 weeks, but just a little refresher. In part 1, we went into the importance of spiritual development. We went into the need to understand and implement spiritual principles within ourselves and within our lives. And I truly do believe that the rest of this chapter that we're going to be covering today wouldn't work if we hadn't taken that time to really emphasize the need for spiritual growth. Because until we develop this spiritual connection, more really can't be revealed. So until we grow and understand that spiritual element, more being revealed maybe wouldn't be a thing. So we covered that in part 1, and now we are into part 2, where we're going to be really getting into more being revealed, both within ourselves and within our lives, the lives that we're creating in our recovery. That as we talked about before, that onion, it's getting peeled back more and more, revealing more elements of ourselves and of our lives, more than an addict like myself could have previously ever imagined, ever. So before we get into it, we got to talk about the spiritual principles that vibe with me personally while reading through this chapter. And as we talk about every single week, there are countless spiritual principles that could directly affect you personally while reading through this chapter. But for me personally, there are the spiritual principles of love. We're going to talk about that a lot today. Acceptance, joy, responsibility, sharing, giving, compassion, growth, gratitude, and empathy. Yeah, we got a long list. This chapter, I love it so much. So now that through working through the first part in part 1, episode 34, we are able to have developed some level of spirituality, right? And inherently the spiritual principles within developing that spirituality, right? And now that we're no longer a slave to the disease of addiction, we begin to actually develop who we actually are. And we talked about this before. It's not, we can finally look at who we actually are and become who we actually are. Not who I want you to think I am, not who I want to be or who I pretend to be or who I lie to myself thinking, but who I actually am. And I want to start with this quote from the literature. It's a long one, but it really puts down everything we're going to be talking about in this section of episode 35. And it says, "We come to know ourselves for the first time. We experience new sensations, to love, to be loved, to know that people care about us, and to have concern and compassion for others. We find ourselves doing and enjoying things that we never thought we would be doing. We make mistakes and we accept and learn from them. We experience failure and we learn how to succeed."
That part.
That right there, whew, that's going to tie into everything that we're going to talk about. I know it was a long quote, but it ties into everything. And the first thing we got to talk about is the first thing mentioned there, and that is love. Yeah, we're getting lovey-dovey on this episode, y'all. We are full of love. Not just for myself, not just for the fellowship, not just in general. Love is going to be a big topic today. So if you don't like love, strap in and we'll love you. And then you'll like love, maybe, hopefully. So, like I said, love is first up. And for many of us coming into the rooms of recovery, coming into the program, we've never really had a healthy perspective on love. Or if we did previously have some element of healthy love within our lives, the using of drugs or of things or of people made it so we lost touch with that. It says in the literature that the ability to love was sharply affected by our drug use. So loving and being loved was very difficult for a lot of us when we first got here. You know, most of us, when we walked into the rooms, we didn't love ourselves. So if I can't love myself, how can I truly love someone else? So this concept that you hear so often in the rooms of recovery of unconditional love, that was scary as fuck for most of us when we first got here. That was scary as shit, this concept of fucking unconditional love. When we first get here, we're so guarded and untrusting of others, of ourselves, of the world. And a lot of us have trauma or a pain or grief tied in to the perception of love. So love can be a scary fucking thing. And it's difficult at times to believe that there can truly be unconditional love. So many of us are used to people wanting something in return. You know, that thought of like, okay, so yeah, you love me, but what do you want in return? You're just trying to use me for something. I know when I was in my active addiction, that popped up a lot. The concept of love, there wasn't very much, but when it would pop up, there was often some type of caveat to it. It wasn't just true unconditional love, which is why this, in my opinion, is one of the most important and greatest spiritual principles within the 12-step recovery model. Unconditional love is something that every single day addicts like myself get to experience. It's something that is permanently a part of the fellowship, literally all around the world. That's what we talk about. I can go to a meeting that's in another country, in another language, and I can still feel loved. But oftentimes, especially when we're new, we have to let the fellowship love us. You know, we talk about in the rooms a lot that we'll love you till you love yourself. And for a lot of us, that is truly what we have to do. When we walk into a room, we don't feel loved. We don't feel loving. We feel unlovable. So what do? We just let the fellowship love us. We let the people around bring us up and love us until we can love ourselves. And by doing that, it says in the literature that much of our loneliness and fear is replaced by the love and security of the fellowship.
That part.
Whew. The feeling of love in the fellowship is truly unlike anything I've ever felt or experienced in my life. And for somebody who isn't an addict or who, hasn't been to meetings and hasn't been a part of the fellowship, that's going to seem weird. But the feeling of unity, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of identification when you walk into a room of like-minded people that don't look like you, don't sound like you, don't have the same experience, strength, or hope as you, don't have the same life difficulties as you, but you feel loved when you walk in, that is a feeling that is completely just indescribable. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in my favorite moment of the week. But the collective energy, it's like it takes love and it like supercharges it. It like throws a supercharger on that motherfucker. And it's like, love's beautiful. But now that it's coming from a place of unity and a place of belonging, it just like exponentially explodes it, if you will. It says in the literature that we have had similar experience and understand fellow addicts as no one else can. And that understanding, that vibe of being being a part of, that is the type of thing that can just take love and puts a whole new spin on it. Like that understanding, when added to that spiritual principle of love, it's unlike anything I've ever felt. And I wish I could put words to that. I really wish I could put words to it better than that, because it just sounds like I'm rambling about how amazing the love is. But I couldn't put words on it. Still, I didn't know it was a thing until I experienced it in the rooms of the fellowship. And I'm not trying to undermine the love that I have felt and given to people that aren't in the program or prior to getting in the program. I'm not trying to undermine that at all. I'm not trying to say like, yeah, sure, you love, but your love doesn't feel the same. I'm not trying to say that. But there was just something inherently present in the rooms of recovery. And as I said, I can't put words to it. I can't put it into words. But it's something that simply has to be experienced. Because we have all experienced in active addiction something worse than words could ever explain. If you're an addict like me, you know what I mean. That hell that we were living in. And then for everybody to come together with a group purpose of recovery, whew, that collective love works wonders, y'all. Like I have personally witnessed people who have admittedly hated themselves when they came into recovery. Fucking hated themselves. Thankfully, my personal story isn't to that level. I didn't hate myself. I hated some of the things I did, and I didn't necessarily love myself, but I didn't completely hate myself. But I know people who came into the room so broken that they fucking hated themselves. And watching them blossom into someone who truly loves themselves, whew, it's one of the most beautiful, gratifying feelings you can see. Because it's proof that recovery works. It's proof that the program works. It says in the literature that by loving ourselves, we become truly able to love others. And today, I can say that I love myself. And because I love myself, I can truly say that I love any and all addicts. Even if I don't like them, I put that caveat in there, sometimes being funny, be like, sometimes when I'm sharing in a meeting, I'll be like, yeah, I love each and every one of you, even if I don't like you. And then it gets a laugh and, my ego gets stroked a little bit, but it's a truthful thing. I love each and every addict. I give that unconditional love that was given to me. The same way that there are plenty of people out there who don't like me, who can't stand me. But at the end of the day, they love me because that's what we do. We give unconditional love. Even for people I don't like, or people I don't agree with, or people that I can't fucking stand their social media posts or the way that they do things in their life. I still love them, and I still have empathy for them, and I will pray for them accordingly. But that element of love is always present, and it's something that we have to, as recovering addicts in the 12-step fellowship, have to add to. When we start getting caught up on like, yeah, I don't like that guy. Fuck that guy. That can start getting into, well, maybe we're not giving the love that we need to. At the end of the day, I love every single addict. Doesn't mean I have to like them. Doesn't mean I have to hang out with them. Doesn't mean that they're my boys and we vibe out. But I love them because I know that they are like me. I know that, as my sponsor says, the same dog that bit me bit them. And we're sitting here in a meeting trying to heal together. And love is one of the most important elements of that. So now that by now having that deeper sense of deeper love, I can truly say that I do love who I am. I love me for me. Just like I love every other addict out there for them. I love me, for my assets and for my defects. In this process of loving myself, phrasing. Yeah, I'm still a child. If I say loving myself, immediately I'm like, hey. For anybody who's not watching the live stream right now, I just made a little hand masturbatory pantomime, if you will. I digress, bro. I'm such a fucking child. But this process of loving myself, of becoming in contact with myself, is a spiritual awakening. It says in the literature that this is a spiritual awakening that comes as a result of living this program. We find ourselves daring to care and to love. Whew, I love that. And this entire concept developed within and because of the fellowship. Like, this entire concept in me developed because of the fellowship and within the fellowship. I was not capable of developing this love on my own, especially brand new when I just had drugs removed and I'm feeling shit and I'm not loving myself. There's no possible way I could have done that without the fellowship, which is why we emphasize in meetings on this podcast, whenever I'm talking to other addicts in recovery, the importance of becoming a member of the fellowship. Truly getting involved. I'm not talking about just like, oh, I show up late to the meeting and I leave early from the meeting, but hey, I was at the meeting. No, I'm not talking about that shit. For me personally, again, I can only share my experience, strength, and hope. I can't tell you what's going to work for you. All I can tell me is what worked for me personally. And for me personally, I needed to get involved. Part of the reason that I was able to develop the love for myself was because of how deeply I got immersed in the fellowship from the beginning. I made recovery and the fellowship my life. Not simply a part of my life, but I made it my life. And I truly don't know what my life would look like if I had simply stayed on the outskirts. If I had simply just kind of, floated around, maybe go to a meeting, maybe meet somebody, maybe, get a sponsor. I don't know what my fucking life would look like, but I'm pretty sure it would look a lot different than what it does right now. I would venture to guess that there is a high likelihood I would not be sitting in front of a fucking microphone and a camera discussing the concept of unconditional love with over 3.5 years clean if it weren't for that element of the fellowship, if it weren't for just jumping in feet first into the deep end of recovery, of the fellowship, of making those friendships, of going up to somebody that I don't fucking know. I've never seen him before in my life, and going up to him and saying, hey, what's up? My name's Matthew M. I'm an addict. I've got this many days. You want to go get some coffee? You want to go to Chipotle? Well, I got invited to Chipotle, actually. That was one of the first experiences of the fellowship in Arizona that I had, and it was amazing. And what do you know? 3.5 years later, one of those people is my absolute best friend in the world. And that's what the fellowship does. That is what the fellowship does. If I had stayed on the outskirts of recovery, of the fellowship, man, I don't even know what my fucking life would look like right now. But I know it wouldn't look like this. I know that for a fact. It says in the literature that spiritual growth, love, and compassion are idle potentials until shared with a fellow addict. Whew, I love that. And the best place to find fellow addicts is in recovery, is at a meeting in the fellowship. Like, right? That seems pretty fucking basic. Where do addicts in recovery go? They go to the fellowship for addicts in recovery. Where's the best place to share that spiritual growth, that love and compassion with other fellow addicts? Probably in the fucking fellowship that has meetings for recovering addicts. I'm just saying. It says in the literature, by giving unconditional love in the fellowship, we become more loving. And by sharing spiritual growth, we become more spiritual. It's what we've talked about before, that the more we use a spiritual principle, the more that it emphasizes in our life. The more that I'm living in spiritual principles, the more spiritual principles pop up in my life. The same way that the more I'm living in defect, the more character defects pop up in my life. We talked about this so many times. But if you are not familiar with what I'm saying, please go back and listen to all previous 34 episodes of the Clean and Filthy podcast. Much appreciated. Shameless plug. So, I want to become more spiritual. I want to become more loving. So how do I do that? I share unconditional love. I share my spiritual growth. And that's why talking to a newcomer is so important. That's why sponsorship is so important. As it says in the literature, newer members are a constant source of hope, ever reminding us that the program works. We have the opportunity to live the knowledge acquired by staying clean when we work with newcomers. Close quote. As we always say, we can only keep what we have by giving it away. And often that helps us directly as well. When I'm sharing a message, when I'm talking to a newcomer, when I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope, that's helping me as well. It says in the literature that in the process of answering the questions of another, our own thinking becomes clear. And that is so fucking true. I can't tell you the number of times I've been talking to a sponsee, or I've been talking to just a newcomer at a meeting, or whoever over the last 3.5 years. And they ask a question to me, and as I'm giving my experience, strength, and hope on it, the answer becomes a lot clearer. That's why we talk about sponsorship is a two-way street. That's what we talk about. We can only keep what we have by giving it away. That's why it's so vital to be a part of the fellowship, to make an effort to carry the message to anyone and everyone that we can inside the fellowship. And then once we develop that base in the fellowship, because it does take time. I'm not saying you're just going to walk into your first meeting, and I'm not saying that your story and your experience, strength, and hope is going to be you diving balls deep into recovery, that you dive in fucking feet or head first into the deep end. Maybe you do. Maybe you'll do what I did. And maybe it won't take much time to set up that base in the fellowship. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't and it takes some time, that's fine too. Just as long as you end up within that fellowship. Because once we develop that base in the fellowship, we become valued members. Not for material things. I'm not a valued member if I show up to a fucking meeting in a Lamborghini. I'm not a valued member if I fucking have 50 million in the bank. Because as we talked about before, we are all equals. Our value is in what our personal experience, strength, and hope is. When we're in a business meeting, it doesn't matter if somebody has X amount of years clean or X amount of dollars in the bank. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we are a member of that fellowship. And every single addict has value to be added to the fellowship in some way, shape, or form, I personally believe. Sometimes And I'll admit that there have been addicts I have met in my 3.5-year journey that I have to question what the value is for that person, whether that's out of my own character defects or my own judgment or whatever the fuck it is. There have been times when that has occurred. But that allows me to focus in on areas for growth within myself and see things from a different perspective and get past judgment or character defect or whatever those things are that are stunting my perception, so I can see the value that person is adding. And that value of being a valued member in the fellowship leads to responsibility to the fellowship, to give back what was so freely given to us. And this feeling of responsibility to carry the message has led to a sense of responsibility outside of recovery that I previously never had. Like in all areas of my life. It says in the literature, one of the continuing miracles of recovery is becoming a productive, responsible member of society. And I'm not saying that going to some meetings, being a part of the fellowship, picking up a coffee, cleanup service commitment, you're just going to instantly turn into the most responsible human being ever. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying for me personally, by doing service work within the fellowship, I developed a sense of responsibility. I developed a sense of importance, not to the fellowship, because guess what? The fellowship's going to continue without me, whether I'm there or not. But I developed a sense of importance within myself. The way that we build self-esteem is by doing esteemable acts. It's by making commitments. It's by sticking to commitments. And that, to me, is one of the most incredible, tangible, quantifiable changes in my life. Because my life 4 years ago was nothing like that. I wasn't productive or responsible. Honestly, I wasn't really a member of society. Like maybe of like some sub-society that just so happened to partake in life over in Sunny Slope. If you're not from Arizona, you don't know the area of Sunny Slope. If you are from Arizona, you know Sunny Slope. But I wasn't a member of society. I didn't have a job. I was fucking completely unemployable. I didn't pay taxes. Fucking, you want me to pay taxes, motherfucker? Like, I didn't honor commitments I made to others or to myself. As it says in the literature, living skills were reduced to an animal level. Our spirit was broken. The capacity to feel human was lost. And for an addict like myself, that's the fucking truth, man. I didn't have a sense of responsibility. I didn't have a sense of commitment. I didn't have a sense of honor. I didn't have a sense of determination. Like, there were no responsibilities in my life. There were no responsibilities in my life. And no one was dumb enough to give me anything to be responsible for, honestly. Nobody was was dumb enough to give me responsibilities or give me or ask me to make commitments because they knew it wasn't going to happen. But today, because of working this program, I have service commitments within every level of group, area, and regional levels of service. I'm trusted to make and honor commitments, both to the fellowship and outside of the fellowship. And I'm talking financially, professionally. When I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm there and I'm on time. And that might not seem like a big deal to people who have never gone through active addiction. But this addict right here was the type of guy who was permanently hours late to every single part of my life. The last time that I was invited to go to Christmas at my family's house, I showed up to Christmas 4 hours late. 4 hours late, even though I'd been up for 3 days. 4 hours late. It says in the literature that we are pleased when people depend on us. And I remember how good I felt actually being on time for things. You know, a normal thing that normal people have been doing their whole life gave me so much immense pleasure when I would be on time for things that now it's become just a normal thing. And now, I feel terror if I'm running late. I feel terror if I'm running late. And again, this is from a dude who 4 years ago was never on time to anything. I wasn't even on time to go pick up more dope from the dope man. That's how permanently late I was to everything. I mean, granted, that motherfucker was always, multiple hours late too. So that was a shit show. But this is from a dude who could never be on time for anything in his life. Now, if I'm not on time, I feel some kind of way about it. Evidence of the program working in my life.
That part.
And I'm not sharing this to brag. I'm not sharing this to suck my own dick. I'm not sharing this to be like, yeah, look at me. Ooh, am I just such a distinguished gentleman? Nah, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not doing that shit to big up myself. I'm not doing that shit to fucking pat myself on the back. I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope to show that we do recover. That this program does work. And that this program can work for anyone and everyone in the fucking world that wants to work this program of recovery. That's what I'm sharing this for. I'm sharing this to emphasize that I am the same as any other person out there who's suffering from the disease of addiction. I'm the same as every other fucking addict out there. I am the exact fucking same. There's nothing special about me. I'm not a special addict. I'm not a gold star addict. I'm a fucking addict, just like anybody else. And if it can work for an addict like myself, it can work for anybody. It can work for anybody. And once it starts working, we got to make sure it keeps working, right? It says in the literature, we have found that the way to remain a productive, responsible member of society is to put our recovery first. And we talk about this all the fucking time. We talk about this so often, about how vital it is to my continued recovery that my recovery stays first and foremost. And that can be difficult. We talked about this last episode when life starts to show up and the joy of the life that we've developed in recovery starts to take more of our time or starts to take more of our effort. Or we want to start, enjoying our life, and all of a sudden recovery doesn't seem as appealing and doesn't bring as much joy as we previously had. We have to keep our recovery first. And because I continue to keep my recovery first, today I can say that I'm a good father. I'm a good friend. I'm a good employee. I'm an empathetic, loving, and caring addict in recovery. And just for today, I can say I'm a good person. And obviously, I'm not perfect, and I never will be. But today, I can make mistakes and accept and learn from them, as we talked about earlier. To grow into a better person. Because as we talked about so many times, if I'm not trying to grow, what's the fucking point? If I'm not trying to become a better version of myself in anything and everything that I do, what's the fucking point? If I'm not trying to become a better father, if I'm not trying to get my recovery stronger, if I'm not trying to work out more, if I'm not trying to become a better podcast host or a better friend or a more spiritual individual, what am I doing? I'm just fucking treading water. Fuck that, man. Do you know how many years of my fucking life I treaded water in misery? I don't ever have to do that again. I don't ever have to do that. Today, because of the 12-step program of recovery, I get to grow. I get to develop. I get to become a better person. I get to help the world, man. I get to help the world. And now that I have the opportunity to do better and be better, man, it ties right into this quote. It says, we become able to make wise and loving decisions based on principles and ideals that have real value in our lives. By shaping our thoughts with spiritual ideas, we are free to become who we want to be. Woo! And that right there is a more will be revealed that has really impacted my life. And who I want to be today is completely different than I could have ever imagined. When I went to treatment over 3.5 years ago, all I wanted was a change from my current reality. Then more was revealed, and I wanted to try recovery. And then more was revealed within the principles that I learned and applied to my life, which revealed a completely new way of thinking, which then revealed a life purpose. And for somebody like myself, who has never truly known what I wanted to be, we've talked about this before. I want to be everything. I've always wanted to be everything. I never had that one thing. You know, some people from the time they can talk are like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be an astronaut. You know, we talked about before. I never had that one thing that I was like, that's going to be my fucking calling. Yeah. But because of more being revealed, I can truly say that my purpose in life, what I feel my calling is to help people, is to leave the world a better place than I found it. And I'm not saying that I'm going to go save the planet and colonize Mars or make sure the sun doesn't blow up in 5 billion years. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying just for today, I believe my purpose is to help. It's to help somebody who's struggling. It's to help somebody who has questions. It's to help give information and knowledge and love for recovery, for my fellow human beings on this planet, to be a better version of myself than I've ever been, and therefore leave the planet a better place than when I found it. And for a self-obsessed addict in active addiction 4 years ago, this couldn't be further from the truth. That couldn't have been further from the reality of my thought process at that point. And the beautiful thing is that the more that continues to be revealed, the more I have an opportunity to grow. And more things get revealed. Like a fucking year ago, I had no plan to start a podcast. What? I had no plan to develop a weekly podcast that now has gotten thousands of downloads, that's being broadcast literally around the world. I had no fucking thought of that. Today we're 35 episodes deep and potentially helping countless people. And I'm not speaking of delusions of grandeur. I'm not saying that I'm going to be some fucking recovery warrior out here saving the world. I'm not saying that. But I feel I have a purpose. I feel I have a purpose to help. You know, 4 years ago, I had no plans. I had no goals other than finding ways and means to get more drugs. But today, I fully believe that more blessings will continue to be revealed if I continue to grow spiritually, if I continue to try to do the next right thing, if I continue to try to improve myself and try to stay grateful and helpful and willing and open-minded. I truly believe that. It says in the literature, living just for today, we have no way of knowing what will happen to us. We are often amazed at how things work out for us. We are recovering in the here and now, and the future becomes an exciting journey. If we had written down a list of expectations when we came into the program, we would have been cheating ourselves. That part. One of my favorite fucking lines in all of the literature, because it's so true. I could have never fathomed what my life would look like today when I stumbled into treatment 4 about, we'll just say 4 years ago, because I can't tell you exactly if it was 3 years and 7 months and whatever. But when I stumbled into treatment, when I was getting loaded for the last time in a Target bathroom before going to treatment, when I was living in constant fear of life and just shame and guilt, when I was completely devoid of all spirituality, when I just wanted to change, I couldn't have dreamed in my wildest living in fantasy dreams where I would be today. I couldn't. It says in the literature that in time, through recovery, our dreams come true. We don't mean that we necessarily become rich or famous. However, Spirituality enables us to live life to its fullest, feeling grateful for who we are and for what we have done in life. Since the beginning of our recovery, we have found that joy doesn't come from material things, but from within ourselves. And that, for an addict like myself, who was always trying to put external things into my issues, my problems, into the hole in my soul, to have serenity, happiness, genuine fucking joy internally, to actually appreciate being alive, appreciating the ability to grow even through pain, even through difficulty, feeling deeper and stronger love for myself and for those around me, feeling more joy than I ever thought was even possible. Like, I am so incredibly full of gratitude nearly every moment of every day, all because I am in recovery, all because I have developed those spiritual principles. Thanks to this program, thanks to my sponsor, thanks to the other addicts around me who loved me until I could love myself, thanks to the service work, thanks to the steps. I can say that today I love myself, I love others, and I'm just full of gratitude. I am truly, as my sponsor says and my shirt says, happy, joyous, and free. That's what was revealed to me. That's what was revealed. And for an addict like myself, nothing could ever compare to that in life. Truly. Truly. So I'm going to close with this quote. It says, "The program offers addicts a program of recovery that is more than just a life without drugs. Not only is this way of life better than the hell we lived, but it is better than any life that we have ever known. We have found a way out, and we see it work for others. Each day, more will be revealed." And for an addict like myself, that's perfect. That's the perfect way to end this first piece of literature, because every single day, more is revealed. Opportunities, areas for growth, potential for improvement, chances to become a better human being and possibly leave the world a better place than I found it. And if I have that each and every day by working a program of 12-step recovery, then I've got everything I need. I've got everything I need in life. All the other stuff that I used to need to fill that hole in my soul has been replaced by love, by joy, by spiritual principles, by compassion, by empathy, by happiness. I couldn't ask for anything better than that. And that's why I feel so connected to sharing and carrying the message of recovery, because I look at what it's done in my life, and I look at what it's done in the lives of the people that I'm closest with, and I look at what it could do in the lives of everybody that's struggling right now. So I just want to again say it is possible. I just want to share my experience, strength, and hope on recovery, that it is possible. So that's what we got. We are officially done, y'all, with the first piece of literature. Very exciting. We got some big things planned for our next episode, so you're going to have to come back next week and see what we do for episode 36, y'all. So that's what we got. We are hopping out the lab. Like I said, I knew this was going to go long. This is going to be a long episode. Hopefully everybody's caffeinated and ready to vibe out, because we have so much to cover today. So come back next week where we go more in the lab, share more experience, strength, and hope about the 12-step recovery model and how us addicts like myself recover every day from the disease of addiction. So now it is time for our second segment of the show, entitled My Favorite Moment of the Week. This is the part of the show where we look back at something that's happened over the last 7 days, in this case 14 days, and discuss why I liked it. This might be something from news, sports, pop culture, movies, social media, TikTok, Might be something that just random. Might just be my favorite motherfucking meme of the week. This is not a place that's focused on experience, strength, and hope. This is just something that we do for fun because I like fun stuff. I like things that make me happy. So this is what we do here. This is our vibe. So you know that's what we do. So we still don't have a sponsorship from Bang Energy yet, but drink Bang. Be like the host of the Clean and Filthy podcast. Drink some Bang. That's what we're going to do right now. Luscious yumminess just flowing down my throat. 300 milligrams of caffeine, ultra CoQ10, EAA aminos, and super creatine. Get banged out. Let's bang, 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 bang. All right. That's what we do there. So first thing we got to do before we go any further, I got to give a rest in peace shout out to my boy Brandon Moody. He was a former sponsee brother of mine. We went to the same treatment center in Las Vegas. He actually lived in like the sister recovery residence to my house that I was at. We spent a lot of time in early recovery together. We had so much fun out at the Lake Mead camp out back in the day. He passed away from a motorcycle accident. And just got to give him rest in peace, man. It's fucking sad. And you know, my prayers go out to his family, to his really close friends, and anybody who's struggling with that or feeling the pain of that. So rest in peace, Brandon. Got to go into our weekly fitness update. So this is actually a 2-week fitness update, and I am very happy to report that we have actually lost a little bit more weight. When I weighed myself, we were at 209 exactly, which I'm pretty surprised about because between the convention and having my son last weekend, Trash Panda status of eating was engaged. I can't even tell you all the garbage I ate at the convention. We'll get to that. I can tell you that I ate a lot of pizza this past weekend, but thankfully I'm doing a lot of cardio. I'm doing a lot of core, and we are committed to knock out those last 9.1 pounds because I am really trying to get under 200 pounds. Then we'll see how I'm feeling about everything. At this point, I'm thinking I'm probably going to stick to all core and cardio at least till the end of the year, since the fucking year is almost over. What the fuck happened? How are we a week away from November? I digress. All right. Next up, we got to do our little TV wrap up because I finished Squid Game. Really did enjoy the show. Probably enjoyed the memes even more than I enjoyed the show. I'll be honest with that. I probably enjoyed the quality memeage that has popped up from that, but I did enjoy the show. I didn't love the finale. I'll say that. I was not a huge fan of the finale. There were too many fucking questions. There were too many just like, oh, well, what about this? We'll just let that go. Not specifically plot holes, but just loose ends that I need tied up. God damn it. So please let us have there be a second season, please. Also got to talk about what we do in the shadows, because the wellness episode followed by the next episode that actually tied into it. Very rarely does this show actually do episodes that span, storylines that span multiple episodes directly, and this one did, and it was fucking awesome, so shout out to that. But my favorite show that I'm currently watching is Mike Tyson's Mysteries, and I know I'm late to the program. I know it's been around for a while. There's like multiple seasons of it. But this shit is fucking everything. They are short little 10 to 12 minute long episodes that are so fucking ridiculous and asinine and well written. It's like the most ridiculous Scooby-Doo vibes and the Mystery Mobile and all that shit, but like with alternate realities and ghosts and goblins and monsters and talking animals and just the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen. Plus, at the end of each one, Mike Tyson gives his 2 cents and like personal stories regarding things in the episode, and that's everything to me. Also, it's got Norm Macdonald in it, and rest in peace, brother. He plays a very angry, very drunk pigeon. I know. What does that mean? You're probably just going to have to watch the show and find out. So, from the world, that's all we got for TV wrap up. From the world of the internet, I had two favorite things, and they were both voiceovers. One of them being the voiceover remix that people are doing with the voiceover remix version of J. Cole's Middle Child, and just doing a whole like got him. It's pretty fucking funny. But even better than that are the voiceovers of "There's a cougar in the car. There's a goddamn cougar in the car." Then pointing it at the cougar in the car, being the woman. They're very funny. If you haven't seen them, it makes no sense to what I'm saying, and I apologize for that. I need a fucking assistant to pull up one of them right now and play it so y'all motherfuckers know what the hell I'm talking about. I digress. I need a Jamie. Jamie. Like Joe Rogan has a Jamie. I need a fucking Jamie. I digress. We got to get into a sports recap because this is like the heaven for a sports fan. So we got a lot to cover. Don't worry, it's not going to take too long. So to all of the people who don't like sports, please don't have a mass exodus. Just stick around. We got a lot to cover here because we got baseball, hockey, football, basketball, Champions League soccer, F1 racing, MMA, boxing, all over the last week and a half span. It's been fucking nuts. We're going to start off with the NHL because I don't really care about the NHL until we get to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I want to give a shout out to the Seattle Kraken, officially a new expansion team within the NHL. They're playing at what used to be the Key Arena, which used to be one of my favorite stadiums because I spent a lot of time there as a kid watching Supersonics games. Sean Kemp was my favorite player. Shout out to him. I digress. Talking about that, the NBA is back, y'all. NBA is back. We're not going to get super into it because guess what? It's the beginning of the season, and nobody knows if anybody's good or not, especially not considering how the records are currently. But I have to give a shout out to Chris Paul, CP3, officially becoming the first player in history with 20,000 points and 10,000 assists. Shout out to him. Fucking incredible. Hall of Famer. Let's go, Suns. Also, we got Russell Westbrook's debut on the Lakers. It's not really clicking yet, to the point that Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard were straight fighting on the bench to the dismay of Magic Johnson. Plus, there's been tons of discussion about the NBA top 75 players list because it's currently the 75th season of the NBA, so they did a top 75 players in the history of the NBA. And everybody has been adding their 2 cents about who should be on the list, but nobody ever then says, oh, well, this person shouldn't be. So it's just like bitching for the sake of bitching, but without giving all of the facts. Like if you think Klay Thompson should have been on the list, then who are you taking off? Just do that for me. Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith, Paul Pierce, all of y'all I just added. Come back at me. Who are you taking off the list? I digress. Baseball. The World Series is set, y'all. That's right. The Astros are playing the Braves. Actually, it's probably on right now. Is officially game 1 is on Tuesday, today. I believe it started at 5 p.m. So hopefully you guys are hanging out watching me. And if you're watching the game as well, hopefully it's just on in the background. I digress. But Astros opened as betting favorites. We're going for the Braves because even though I love Dusty Baker as a manager, fuck the Astros. They cheaters. If I hate the Patriots, I got to hate the Astros as well. And I also have always really liked Freddie Freeman, so shout out to him. I admit, I don't care about baseball all season. Season's too fucking long. We say this all the time. Too many fucking games. Shorten the season. Make the games matter. But I definitely fucks with the playoffs, and I will be watching the World Series because it's the vibe. Next off, we got to talk about the Formula One race of the United States Grand Prix, y'all, from Austin, Texas, on the Circuit of the Americas track, and I actually got to watch it live. One of the problems with one of my favorite sports being predominantly an international sport is the fact that I don't get to watch the most of the races live because most of them come on at 5 o'clock in the morning. Always seems to be on weekends. I have my son, so I really can't justify staying up until 7:30 in the morning to watch a fucking race. I just watched the repeat of it, but it was amazing getting to watch it live. Started off with Max Verstappen. He had pole position. Hamilton started second. It was a great race the whole way through. Mercedes essentially gave Hamilton a chance to win, but Max Verstappen wouldn't let it happen, y'all. An absolutely phenomenal drive from Verstappen. He would never let Lewis Hamilton get into the DRS zone. And the driving of the last 3 laps was pretty much perfect. I don't think Max could have driven that any better. So Verstappen holds on for the win, which I don't like, because now he leads the championship by 12 points over Lewis Hamilton with 5 races left. It was also really cool to see like how into it the U.S. fans were, seeing how the event really blew up and had massive amounts of celebrities. I mean, fucking Megan Thee Stallion was there. I doubt she's ever watched a single Formula One race, but she was still there. And so therefore, we're still talking about it. And the memes that came out of it with Shaq up on the podium celebrating were everything. Like, God damn, Shaq's huge. Like, real shit, he's fucking huge. And I know most Formula One drivers are pretty petite, but he looked like the Jolly Green Giant in that motherfucker. It was amazing. Also, speaking of Formula One, tying into NFL, got to give a shout out to the ESPN, because they did an amazing article that detailed how J.J. Watt from the Arizona Cardinals is a massive Formula One fan. And I'm not talking about just like a casual fan, like he knows who Daniel Ricciardo is or who Lewis Hamilton is or who Sebastian Vettel is. Like, this motherfucker knows in depth. And I love that so much. I love that so much. Makes me love J.J. Watt even more. And it's all thanks to the Netflix show Formula One Drive to Survive series. So I highly recommend checking that out if you have any interest in motor racing, motor sports racing at all, because Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsports racing, period. And as I said, that leads a perfect little lead into my NFL recap. Not going to go over everything in the last 2 weeks because I already said this was going to be a long episode, and I don't want it to be stupidly long when it comes to sports. But we got to talk about the important things. The Cardinals are 7-0, y'all. Motherfucking undefeated. Only team in the league still that is undefeated. Loving it. Got a huge game on Thursday against the Packers. One thing is Devontae Adams officially went to the COVID list, and as much as that hurts my fantasy team, it's okay if it helps the Cardinals. So let's go. They are looking like a genuinely complete, solid team on all 3 facets of the game. Going to the Ravens. Ravens are now 5-2 because they looked like absolute trash against the Bengals in all 3 facets of the game. Maybe the Bengals are actually a good team. Maybe. Or maybe the Ravens just shit the bed. Regardless, I will say Burrow to Chase is definitely a real thing. That chemistry they had, thanks to college, now in the pros, that's a magical thing to watch. And god damn, I wish I would have drafted Chase. Also got to give a huge shout out to Lamar Jackson, who after not this past week, but the week prior's win, he has officially passed Dan Marino for winning the most games prior to the age of 25 ever. Shout out to him. You're a beast, Lamar. Let's go. 2 other things we got to talk about football. I want to give a shout out to the fact that the Washington football team retired Sean Taylor's number 21. He was always one of my favorite DBs back in the day. The way he played was far too violent for the NFL today. It would not be a thing, but it was incredibly exciting. He died in a home invasion, got shot back in 2007. And even though the whole ceremony seemed thrown together, even though the whole ceremony seemed like a diversion from the John Gruden emails that have come out that tie into the Washington football team. So I'm not giving a shout out to the Washington football team for doing this. I'm just giving a shout out to the fact that Sean Taylor's number was retired. That's all. I digress. Also, this one hurts my soul. Like, this one hurts my fucking soul, but I have to give a shout out to Tom Brady. I hate the motherfucker, man. I fucking hate him. I hate him. Okay, I don't hate him. Like, I don't hate him personally. But as a football player, I fucking hate him. Anybody who understands sports can get that vibe. But I got to give him a shout out because he got his 600th regular season touchdown. Never been done. Probably will never be done again. Like, the dude's bionic. He's not a fucking human being. He's a fucking cyborg. He's probably Ultron. Like, real shit. He is probably Ultron, hiding under a skin suit. He's probably going to play till he's like 80. He's probably going to have 1,200 fucking touchdowns. Like, the dude's ridiculous. And there was a really fun element because he threw the pass to Mike Evans, and then Mike Evans gave the football away. And that was fun watching that whole trying to get the football back. It was a fun vibe. So as much as I hate to admit it, he's the fucking GOAT, period. Leads to fantasy roundup. So even after making a bunch of moves, waiver wire moves, adding people, doing some research, going and checking out what Matthew Berry from ESPN had to say about fantasy stuff, it looked like I was going to go 0-4 combined over those 2 weeks. That's what it looked like. Thanks this past week to Patrick Mahomes and his 5.74 points while I was playing friend of the show, my buddy Alex, who had a terrible week as well. And I looked like I might actually get a win. OMG, might I actually get a win? Nope, I was wrong in that league, and I fucking lost. But that's right, y'all. There's more. In my other league, I was playing against Mr. Mahomes. And thankfully, the scoring in that league is fucking asinine. And Alvin Kamara ended up getting me like 40-something points. So for the first time in over a month between two fantasy football leagues, I got a win. So overall, for the last 2 weeks, we went 4-4 total. I'm no longer in last place in both leagues, only in one of them. I'm also, just for argument's sake, to make my ego feel better, I'm in the top 3 most points scored against me in both leagues. Like, everybody scores good points against me. I should be doing better, but it is what it is. I digress. I want to touch on this thing that happened because this was an amazing higher power type of moment, y'all. So I worked my first shift back at the event company that I've worked in the past. I was working a small wedding reception. And as I'm doing my job, whatever, I met one of us. I went to offer somebody wine, and he said, "Nah, man, I just celebrated 32 years clean." And next thing I know, we start talking. So shout out to Vic. You a real one, my brother. This dude was straight wearing a convention shirt underneath his wedding attire. Like, his home convention was just 2 weeks prior to my home convention. We started talking about different people that we knew from the fellowship. And I mean, it was just one of those higher power moments of just feeling just such love for the fellowship, man. And for so much love for recovery. And like, how crazy is it that my first shift back working, that I wasn't even going to work. I worked that shift just to help the company out. Just so happens to be with a dude that's just like me. Just celebrated 32 years. Man, that shit right there, like, that's just goosebumps type of shit. And there has to be a reason for that. There has to be. So now that we're talking about some recovery element of it, we got to talk about my actual favorite moment of the week, y'all. And I already buried the lead last episode as to what my favorite moment of the week was going to be. And thankfully, I didn't put a hex on it. And it, in fact, was my favorite moment of the week. And I am talking about the 34th annual Arizona Regional Convention that took place not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And as we discussed on social media, I had no fucking voice afterwards. None at all. So it was a good convention. But after 2 years of delays, of pandemics, of scheduling, rescheduling, canceling, doing a virtual option of it, the convention finally happened, y'all. And it was fucking amazing. Getting to see people that I hadn't seen in years. Pandemic really makes it difficult to see people. Getting to feel the joy of thousands of addicts all together, getting to be of service on a regional level, man, it was nuts. And surprisingly, it was less stressful than some of the events that our subcommittee, the entertainment and fundraising subcommittee, had previously done. Because at the end of the day, I knew what we needed to do at the convention. It wasn't on me to have people show up. So it was really a lot less stressful than I expected it to be. But for those who aren't familiar, what happens at a recovery convention? You might be like, oh, what's this recovery convention vibe? It's amazing. I will tell you that. It is multiple days of different workshops on different topics within recovery. It's talking about a lot of the same things we talk about on this podcast. In workshop, 45 to hour and 15-minute long workshops that we get speakers from all across the country to share their experience, strength, and hope on. It's got added bonuses of entertainment like bingo, or this year a comedian show. And then there's main speakers as well. There are main speakers who, are share for an hour of their experience, strength, and hope. And then there's a Clean Time Countdown, which I just got goosebumps. Clean Time Countdowns are fucking everything. And I will say that I did not get to see a single workshop this convention. I didn't get to see a single workshop speaker because I knew that going in. I knew going in to the event that I was going to be very lucky if I got to see anything at all at that convention, because we were operating on a rather small subcommittee this year. We only had a few people in our subcommittee. So I knew I was going to be spending a lot of time at the entertainment and fundraising table. I knew I was going to be selling raffle tickets. I knew I was going to be engaging with people out in the hall. I knew I wasn't going to be able to spend a lot of time inside the actual convention, and I was perfectly okay with that because I went into it expecting that I wasn't going to be able to. I was expecting to see the Friday night speaker, the Saturday night speaker, call out the bingo numbers, and do the comedian show. And that is exactly what occurred. I was not expecting to get more than that, so I didn't have any resentment to it. I was very, very happy about it. My barometer for success on this convention was that people were happy and had a good time. And all of the feedback that I have gotten from everybody that I talked to was that people had a good time, period. I ended up getting 10 hours of sleep total over 3 days. The entire weekend was fueled by Bang Energy and Red Line. That was the entire weekend. But the feeling of being a part of a subcommittee at a regional level, helping put on a convention for 1,500 people from all across the country, knowing that myself and our subcommittee was a part of many people's first ever convention, plus like getting to have a walkie-talkie with a little FBI earpiece was pretty cool. And I'll say there were some very stressful moments. Partly why I didn't sleep, but 3 hours and then 2 hours because it was very stressful at times. Specifically, making sure that the Saturday night entertainment was good, making sure that the comedian was good and everything was taken care of. And then things that popped up at the last second, I automatically catastrophized everything. In my mind, even though I knew it wasn't the truth, in my mind, it was like something's going to go wrong. He's not going to perform and I'm going to fuck this entire convention up. That's where this addict's mind goes at times, even though there's not any possibility of that occurring. But being able to be a part of putting something on like that was one of the greatest feelings of my recovery. Even when issues popped up, like last minute planning things or things off of his contract or his rider that weren't correct, like the table that was supposed to be on the stage for him to perform, they brought in the table and it was broken. And so 5 minutes before we're starting, they're changing out the table and I am pacing around looking like a fucking lunatic. I was over-caffeinated, underslept, stressed, and pacing like a motherfucker. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know me when I'm stressed out because usually I'm not stressed out. Usually I'm like mad chill on everything. So people who have never seen me stressed out all are like worried. They're like, are you okay? Like, take a breath. And they'll realize that that's how I operate. I operate under pressure. Before this episode, I was pacing through my kitchen, waiting for the time to hit 5 p.m. That's just how I operate. And things end up working out. And it worked out. That's what it fucking did. It's what it fucking did. By praying, by having faith, everything worked out amazingly. And the amount of work that went into the whole process of getting the contract for this comedian, coordinating, getting him there. And this dude's a big deal, y'all. Like I'm trying to tell you, he's like a big deal. He's done major work with and for major comedians. And that moment when we got everything lined up and all of a sudden I became a sound guy and a light guy and working spotlights and putting his intro music, when he got up on stage, I had tears in my eyes. Because I felt such an immense level of gratitude to the other people on the subcommittee that I chair, that we did it, y'all. We did it. We fucking did it. And then I spent another hour and a half with tears in my eyes from laughing so fucking hard because he was fucking hilarious. Like, seriously fucking hilarious. But my favorite moment of that entire thing was afterwards. After the show ended, Mark L., the comedian, was standing off on the side of the stage talking with some different addicts who wanted to just come up and talk to him and wanted to share their experience with him. And there was a dude who came up who told him, this dude came up to Mark and said, I can't believe that I'm meeting you right now. Because when I first got clean, me and my buddy would drive around all day listening to your clips on YouTube. And now I'm getting to meet you. Now I'm getting to meet you. And he had tears in his eyes. I got goosebumps. I had tears in my eyes. Because that impact on somebody else's life, when somebody was struggling early on, we never know when we might be able to have that impact. And that is just one of the most beautiful fucking things ever to me. And seeing that impact and knowing that myself inadvertently, with the help of the subcommittee, facilitated that. We talk about higher power works through people. And in some way, shape, or form, that dude's higher power worked through us for that moment. And man, I had so much joy in that moment. Hearing that story, I had so much fucking joy, man. That was like just the absolute confirmation of how amazing recovery truly is. And just for the whole weekend, I had so much fucking immense gratitude for everybody that was involved in that convention. To even be a part of that experience, all of the planning, all of the hours, the emails, the meetings, it all paid off so well. And we had succeeded. So a huge shout out to each and every member of the entertainment and fundraising subcommittee. I have guilted most of them into becoming loyal listeners on this podcast, so you all will probably be hearing it. And hopefully you guys come back for our next convention, which is the 35th annual convention, which will be in May. So if you have never been to a convention and you're an addict in recovery, I highly recommend it. You need to fucking experience it. To even if you're not an addict, I recommend coming and checking out a convention, especially Saturday night for the Clean Time Countdown, because to have 1,500 people in a room laughing, crying, screaming, cheering, vibing with each other, it is unlike anything I have ever experienced in my life. So if you want more information about the next convention, it is going to be Memorial Day 2022. If you want to be of service at that convention, hit me up because we are already starting the process of getting ready for the next convention. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to put in some work and I'm going to really try to get Mark L. on this podcast because I think it would be a great interview and I think it would be a lot of fun. So everybody put your prayers, fingers crossed, wishes up to the world that occurs because I think it would be a lot of fun. So that's what we've got for my favorite moment of the week, man. The convention was everything. It was everything that I was hoping and praying and wishing that it would be and stressing out about. And it was. And it was successful. And not from an egotistical standpoint in any way, shape, or form. Just knowing that I was a part of something that's successful brings me immense joy and gratitude. So that's what we got for my favorite moment of the week. Come back next week where we talk about something else that has occurred over the last week and give more information about it as to why it makes me happy. Also, if you have any TikToks or Instagram or TikToks or Facebook posts or TikToks or news stories that maybe you're just going to make me smile, send them over to your boy. Send them over Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or on any social media, and I would love to check them out. Maybe we'll talk about them on air. So that's what we got. And now it is time for our next segment of the show entitled Ask an Addict.
It's time to Ask an Addict with your host, Matthew M.
That's right, y'all. It is time for our Ask an Addict segment. This is the part of the show where the resident addict of the Clean and Filthy podcast answers your questions that you submit to us here on the Clean and Filthy podcast. If you have any questions, send them over, please. They do not have to be recovery related. This is a Reddit AMA. Ask me anything. I love answering questions. I love answering questions regarding recovery, but they don't have to be, as you'll see by some of these questions. And I'm very happy to say we don't have anything regarding food this week. Thankfully. But if you have any questions, send them over, even if they are about food. Even if you want to make my diet that much more difficult, send them over. I would be more than happy to answer them. I love answering questions. It's just fun for me. It's just a fun vibe. So make it fun for me. How about that? All right. First question we have. This is funny. It says, why do I wear these rings and jewelry? Am I trying to be Mr. T? Now, for anybody who's not watching this episode live on YouTube right now, or the re-show on YouTube, you don't realize that every episode I have 3 rings on, and I also have a bracelet on, and now I added a new ring as well. So these rings are my recovery rings, and I've gotten one for each year that I've been in recovery. So each year that I get another year clean, I get another ring. Now you might ask, what happens if you make it to 10 years? You just going to start putting them, doubling them up? Nah, y'all. My plan is if I get 10 years, I'm going to get one that has either a Roman numeral X in it, made out of diamonds, or I'm just going to get a motherfucking 10-carat diamond pinky ring like Blood Owl. That's the goal. Yes, sometimes I live in fantasy. That's okay. I also have a bracelet on my wrist that says XXX because my nickname is Matthew Triple Extra. So that's just the vibe. And I just got this new ring that's got 2 hands hugging. It hugs around my pinky. And that I got at the convention. So that's the newest vibe. Hopefully, come February of this next year, I will officially have a ring for my index finger. And then we're going to go for one for the thumb after that. But just for today, I ain't worried about that. That is the reason that I wear these rings. Now you might be asking, who the fuck is Mr. T? For those of you who are very young, maybe you don't know who Mr. T is. He was a legendary character actor from the 80s who was known for wearing his body weight in jewelry. So no, I'm not trying to be Mr. T. My jewelry has a reasoning for it, though I wouldn't mind if I had that much jewelry. That'd be fire. Anyway, I digress. Next question. All right. Next question I was asked is, what is my astrological sign? Oof. All right. So there's a lot to this. I'm just going to say, first off the bat, my birthday is December 24th. I'm not going to tell you the year because I'm old, but it's December 24th. So I am a Capricorn. But according to people who know a lot more about this shit than I ever will, I exude much more of a Sagittarius vibe.
That part.
Which possibly has to do with my birth chart and placement of my sun and my moon and my Venus and my Saturn and all of those other things that I don't know a fucking thing about. But I don't know what time I was born. So we can't do a full birth chart. So shrug emoji. I'm technically a Capricorn, but nobody believes I actually am. I have much more of a Sagittarius vibe. So I just take whatever positives there are of a Capricorn. I'm like, yeah, I vibe with those. And the negatives, I'm like, nah, that ain't me. I'm more on that Saggy vibe. Let's go. Like I said, questions don't have to be just about recovery here. That's what we're working with. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, next question. I like this one. This one's good. It says, you've talked about your defects plenty on this podcast, but what are some of your strengths or assets? I like this a lot. I like this a lot because a lot of times in recovery, especially early on, we focus on the negative. Not even as a negative type of thing, but we focus on the negative elements as places for us to grow and places for us to improve and become better human beings. So a lot of times we don't really look at the assets all that much. And sometimes it's nice to have a reminder. So I very much appreciate this question. But I'll say some of my assets are my determination. Which sometimes can be a little bit of a negative at times, like when you're starting a podcast and you believe that you can do everything. I guess that ties more into control, which is definitely a defect. But my determination. I'm the type of person that I want to give my absolute best at what I'm doing. I'm determined to do that. I believe I'm a very empathetic person. I will say that over the last couple years specifically, with where the world is between politics and social media and all the other shit that goes on, I haven't been as empathetic in some regards as I should be. I haven't been as empathetic to some people as I should be, or some other thought processes as I should be. I believe I'm a very compassionate person. Again, that one's maybe lacked a little bit as of late, but I can truly say, as we talked about earlier, I'm a responsible person. You know, if I make a commitment, I'm going to stick to that commitment. I'm going to hold that responsibility with honor, because for somebody like me who never did that for so long, it's such a difference. It's such a big change to where I used to be that I really take my responsibilities very, very, very deeply. Phrasing, but that's just one of the biggest things with me. I also have to say my open-mindedness. Again, that's been tested lately, but I'm much more, especially compared to where I was, I'm much more open-minded than I ever was in the past. And that's a beautiful thing, especially in the current world that we live in. Open-mindedness is pretty important. Also, my acceptance level. Now, this one might seem weird as how's that an asset or how's that a strength, but I truly believe that my acceptance, my ability to live in acceptance is an asset. It's like the whole serenity prayer thing. Like I found what I can change. I found what I can't. And I'm trying to have the courage to know the difference. And so much of that ties into acceptance. So for me, I might not vibe to you, but I feel that my acceptance is a strength or an asset. I'm hardworking. I'll say that. I'm a hardworking individual. I always feel like if I'm going to do a job, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm not one of those type of people who's like, oh, I'm working a job. Well, I get paid the same amount whether I work hard or not. I don't vibe with that. I enjoy working hard. I enjoy doing a job to the best of my ability, not for anybody else, not to have somebody be like, oh my God, you're fucking amazing. No, it's just intrinsically that makes me feel good. So that's what I like to do. And I'm capable of anything if I set my mind to it. I really believe that. I have that type of a mindset where I believe that I can do anything that I put my mind to. I might not, because a character defect might get in the way. My laziness might pop up, or my fear of failure or fear of success might pop up. But I truly do believe that if I really want something, I can set my mind to it, and I'm capable of it. Which kind of ties into the element of like creative thinking or thinking outside the box, which is something that I do pride myself in. I pride myself in being able to compartmentalize and be task-oriented, but also being able to look at things outside of the box, which is very important when you're trying to develop a podcast and a brand and, finding ways and means to enhance that. So that's something that I really think is an asset of mine. And one thing that always has been said, and it might be seen as a detriment from other people's perspective, but I'm an enthusiastic motherfucker.
That part.
I'm an enthusiastic, high energy, loving life, optimistic, positive thinking as a default type of motherfucker.
That part.
That's just how I am. And that might not vibe with some people, and some people might not think that's an asset. But to me, the fact that the vast majority of every single day over the last 3.5 years, I have woken up happy in the morning. I have woken up full of gratitude and joy. To me, that's a fucking asset. That's a fucking asset that I love more than anything. And I will say, I am incredibly positive thinking by default, sometimes except with things with myself, which, as we talked about earlier, I do often catastrophize. That is something that I just do. Why? I don't fucking know. It's just how this addict operates. But that is a defect that we continue to work through. So those are a few of my assets that I think those are the ones that really popped into my head when I was answering this question. So great question. Thank you for that. Thank you for the reminder of my assets. I appreciate that kindly. So that's what we've got this week for our Ask an Addict segment. If you have any other questions that you would like to have answered right here on air, send them over, Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or any of the social media links. I love answering questions, and I would love to answer your question directly. So ask me some questions, y'all. All right. That's what we got. We're going to be next week, answer some more questions. And we are almost out of time. But you know that we can't close up without them clean Time shout outs. This is the part of the show where we celebrate and recognize various members of the fellowship who have celebrated and reached milestones that are universally recognized within the fellowship. And that means anybody is a newcomer, and that's anybody with 29 days or less. Anybody celebrating 30 days, celebrating 60 days clean, 90 days clean, 6 months clean, 9 months clean, 1 whole year clean, 18 months clean, or multiple years clean. That's 2 or more. But we also like to give shout outs for them big numbers. So if you celebrating a big number, a whole number coming up, like 100 days, 500 days, 1,000 days, 10,000 days, 50,000 days, however fucking many days it is, it's a big ass number like that, send it over so I can give you a shout out because I love doing clean time shout outs. We know this is my favorite part of the show. This is where I get hype as fuck. This is where I drink the rest of my bang, and we give love. Also, so everybody knows, we give them boops for each year. So if you hear a boop, don't be scared, please. You're good. Let's get a drink of this yeet juice here, and let's get into it because we got 2 weeks worth of clean time shout outs, y'all. All right, now we're ready. We revitalize now. First off, we're gonna go into last week's listing of all of our celebrants. Can't miss them. And first off, last week, celebrating 1 whole year clean, we've got Sophia. Well done, girl. And next up, with 16 years clean, we've got Paul W. Woo. We already got to reload, y'all. Next up, man, we're going to have assistance for these last 2. We're going out to Vegas. We celebrating with my man Mark S. with 26 years clean. One more. All right, super reload, because we're going even more than that. My homie Beverly P. Love You Girl celebrating 29 years clean, y'all. God damn. And that's with assistance, and I'm already out of it. I got a super duper reload. Let's go, because we got a whole laundry list for this week as well. So shout out to everybody who celebrated clean time last week. And now let's get 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. Now let's get into this past week, y'all. First off, we are going to Twitter for the absolute most important person. As a newcomer, we've got my man Paul. Well done, brother. Stick around. Next up, with 30 days clean, we've got Carmen D. Hell yeah. And then next up, we're going to Facebook for somebody with a very, very nice name, I must say. We're going out to Matthew H. with 60 days clean. Good job. And then with 60 days as well, we got my boy Chase. Hell yeah, brother. Then next, we're going to Twitter, where we got Lauren celebrating 90 days clean. Hell yeah. And then we're going with another 90-day celebrant. We got my fellow Ravens fan, my boy Josh S. with 90 days. Well done. Then we're going to Facebook, where we're going to shout out Lizzie R. with 6 months clean. Hell yeah. Next up, we've got Stacy C. celebrating 1 year clean. And then we've got Kayla M. celebrating 2 years clean. And then we've got Brandy F. celebrating 3 years clean. And then with 5 years clean, we've got Melinda. Woo. And next, we've got Steve F. celebrating 8 years clean. Next up, now we're getting in the big numbers. Woo. Next up, we've got Ovia celebrating 17 years clean. Ooh, all right, y'all. Next up, with 25 years clean, a quarter of a century, y'all, we've got Linda W. Finish it off there, fella. There we go. Man, I don't know what I'd do if it wasn't for Kendrick and Designer and Travis Scott. I don't know what I'd do right there. So thank you guys. All right. And finally, with 28 years clean, we've got Rhonda D. All right, that's got to be 28, y'all. That's got to be 28, y'all. Woo! Man, people are getting clean around this time. Apparently like October was the month, y'all, because that's the most clean time shout-outs we've ever had. That's the most we ever had. So shout out to each and every one of y'all for celebrating that clean time. If you didn't celebrate clean time, guess what? Don't use and you will. That's literally how this program works. And remember that every single day clean is a successful day.
That part.
Fucking facts. Well, y'all, I hope everybody had a great time with me. This is, I believe, our longest episode ever. We had a lot to cover. Hopefully, you enjoyed what you heard. Hopefully, you share what you heard. Hopefully, you come back next week and enjoy more of the Clean and Filthy podcast. I thank each and every one of you for being here. I thank you for supporting this journey, for being a part of this journey, to continuing to send positive feedback and thoughts and love. And man, I couldn't do it without y'all. I say it all the time, but what I couldn't do alone, what I can't do alone, we can do together. And I'll flat out tell you that if nobody's told you today that they love you, I love each and every one of you, period. Even if I don't know you, even if I'll never meet you, I love you. And I'm so grateful and thankful that you are here, a part of this journey with me. Big shout out again to this amazing song in my ears, Anything by Valentino Khan, Alice in Wonderland. Shout out to Mad Decent Record for that. Huge shout out again to our VIP supporters. Thank you all for your continued support. Please make sure to download this podcast anywhere and everywhere you consume podcasts. We will be back next week, 5 p.m. Arizona time on YouTube. Hope to see you there. I love y'all.